The day has arrived. Day number 10 of the National Finals Rodeo. Welcome to the 6th stage at Cowboy Commons. We have an incredible lineup of talent, insight, wisdom, and opinions. So don't get your head in a spin. We'll do it for you. It's time to rally together one last time. Tommy Joe Lucia, Kendra Santos. Time for No Spin Rodeo Rally.
Welcome to that's your chair, Mr. Ole. Episode 45 of No Spin Rodeo, our last day here in the City of Secrets. We are here in Cowboy Commons. We want to thank Cowboy Christmas. We want to thank them for having us here. I want to thank the production team for working with us the last 9 days. We want to thank all of you out there watching us on Cowboy Channel Plus, Ride Pass, or our podcasters. Thank you to all. We've got a bunch of Australians that listen listen back over the water. A bunch of Canadians. Want to thank all of you for.
Thank you, mates.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, and so we want to do a little bit of housekeeping before we catch up. You shared your grandbaby. I shared mine. Greg is our guy that does all the work here. We want you, Greg, to do a shout out to the family at home.
Well, this is my family at home. Corey, my best friend, significant other. We got my parents and my daughter Jillian over here.
And she's a techie like you, isn't she?
Yeah, she's gonna follow right in my footsteps. She's going to go to school to be for scenic art.
Scenic art. That's cool. Well, I think the one thing all of us, Cody, all of us, and we'll get into Cody, can say, there are foundational parts of our business are the ones that stay at home, that feed, that pay the bills, that keep the home fires burning while we're all out making a living.
And the kids who grow up in a front backpack and a back backpack on their mom and go along and are cool about it and
exactly
don't fuss.
So shout out, if you're at home, it's got to be. I remember having the discussions with Donna, and she's like, "Well, you're sitting in a motel room, I'm here." Well, we all know that the sitting in the motel room or in the trailers and stuff, that can get just as old as you want to be home.
Not as sexy as you think. Kind of like rodeoing for a living. Not quite as glamorous as people want to think.
Well, and we've had all-star lineup of guests on No Spin. Of course, we have our guests stay with us and talk about everything. And I'm going to let you do the introductions of probably another one of the coolest cats to ever grace the arena.
The honor. Mr. CO.
Hear that? You guys remember that? Does that get anything? Uh-oh. Starting to poke a little bit, are you?
It gives me chills. So, okay. Everybody knows 5-time world champion calf roper. Also the 2001 world all-around champ. We'll get into a couple of highs and lows of, we'll go back to 2001 here in a minute, but 1/3 million when that was not easy to do. Like, we should have run the inflation calculator on what that would be today. But, he started out on fire, 94 Rookie of the Year, 6'5" in round 10 in 2003. One thing about, like, Cody Ole and some of those, rivalries and stuff, these are the guys that took it for maybe people, running to the bathroom or to get a hot dog. Nobody ever left their seats. These guys made calf roping way cool at the NFR. There was no, you guys owned it, and it was like a thrill every night. And Cody was, until he went, it was not over. And somehow, some way, found a way.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool pride deal for me because you never get on the victory lap horse until the last guy goes, and everybody always wants the truth, but a lot of people can't handle my truth, so I just know that nobody would ever get on until I wrote, and so that, to me, that was always like an extra world championship to me to have that respect, and and it turned into a code now in every event. Nobody really gets on until that one guy goes.
And the perspective of it, 55 national finals go-around wins, 52 at the Thomas and Mack, I believe 3 at the steer roping finals. 52 Thomas and Mack victory laps is insane. And I always felt like Cody ran on adrenaline and emotion. And the emotion ran hot. And I see a little bit, I don't know if you ever think about it, but like, you know, the love-hate thing some people have with Rocker, because he wears his heart on his sleeve, and you wore your heart on your sleeve, and not really a filter, which I appreciate the truth, but
Yeah, you know, that's I've been like that my whole life, just kind of adrenaline junkie, and I played sports all through school, so I never had lost that, you know, year-round into rodeo season, and then I just brought it into rodeo, and then, you know, I came, when I first started coming here, it didn't go as good as, you know, my younger years. I was always, you know, win the average, win the year-end deal, so that's an average roper to me. But I came here and it didn't start off good a couple of years, so then it just turned into, they thought just I was kind of a one-hit wonder, you know, win a couple of rounds, be really fast on those, and then start all over the process and do it all again the next year. Well, they just don't realize where a horse plays a big role in that. You know, I don't feel like I had nowhere close to the right horse the first 3 years I came here, and we're working on some things right now, but like 97, we all feel that we're in the mix of that 97 was the year that changed the calf roping probably forever. That was the year they broke the record 3 times in one night, and you know, then it got brought up in a meeting that
detail that a little bit.
Yeah, so when I brought it up, then it got to going. But in 96, I tied the record, and then the next night I beat the record. So that was kind of where it, you know, the fire kind of started going with everybody from that point on, and then realizing how fast I could get it on them. Everybody started kind of adapting to that and trying to get, you know, faster throws at calves. So in 97 rolls around, I'm in a spot where I can't stumble. You know, I'm in the lead, but only like by like 10,000 coming in here. And so I had to rope just average, you know. I put my foot on the gas when I could, but not stumble in the average. So I didn't get in that mix of trying to beat a record or tied up and all that to lose a world championship over breaking a record, you know. And it was the 8th round, I think, is when that happened, somewhere right around there. Blair was 7 flat. The very next roper, Fred, was 6'9". And since we talked about it the other day, it was like a dagger in his heart. I mean, he's over there, you know, his people, you know, there was still a lot of people standing up, but his people were still standing up, you know, and throwing stuff and fist bumping and high-fiving. And then Jeff Chapman's the very next roper. And Fred hadn't even, you know, it hadn't even really just sunk in yet, and he's 6'8". So that night of calf roping, you know, I feel like it changed it forever. I do feel like, you know, they catered to rough stock a lot, and so people did go get a drink, people did go get popcorn, but I feel like that night changed the whole perspective. Everybody's restroom break wasn't during the calf roping.
Your 6'5" in round 10 in 2003 stood until last year. Mm-hmm. Haven 6'4", is that right? That's a long time. That's 20 years.
Well, what's even bigger than that is you were able to create a brand and a following. It's a hell of a lot easier to do that today.
It's a hell of a lot easier. So that's, to me, it meant to go to the rodeo, and it was like cheating too when we were competing. I mean, we had Boyd and Bob. I mean, if you can't freaking come to another level, you know, the longer we stayed in the box, Joe, myself, we had really good relationships with Bob, and then I was really close to Boyd as well. But they're just feeding us. Like, the longer we sat there, every second, it's just like asking you for more, asking you for more, asking you for more. And then at some point, you're going to have, I just tried to bring it all, not only for everybody else and myself. It's just, he had me so revved up into the max, and I wanted greatness, you know. Like Kendra said, I've always been blunt. I've always kind of spoke the way I wanted to do. I come out here, I pushed the rules up until the ones I knew I couldn't break to get kicked out, throwing picking strings, doing whatever. They fined me for years for doing that. But
How much did they fine you? Because I've always wanted to know that.
well, the first time you mess up, it's $500. So then it's progressive after that.
Which is like
$500?
5,000 today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the week, my weeks would be at 5,000
For fines.
for fines. Yes.
Worth
Yeah, but
it?
that was an investment in marketing.
It was the greatest thing for fans ever. I mean, it's something to ride out the arena and then get your extra string that you brought down to not. It was good enough to compete with, but it wasn't the one that got chosen, and throw that one in the stands. Or I'd take my ropes. They're like, oh, you get that on eBay. I mean, I'd take the rope that I'd break the record with, or Charlie Horky was a great friend of mine, flew me all over in their jets and here in Vegas in cars, and I personally handed him the rope one year, just the front row. I just took it off. And handed it straight to him, and then the picking strings I only carried one string. So the string the fans got was actually the one that I broke a record with, or whatever, won a go around, or whatever I did with. That was what I gave away, or I threw 2 hats in the stands over the years, and
What brand of strings did you use then?
I'm not really sure right then. I used 3 or 4
Various-
different. Yeah,
I just remember
that
the little-
year was Rattler.
Are they
Okay.
special though? I'm just wondering, like, is a string, like, do you want to hang on to that? And is it because is it operational? In other words, is it the feel of it, or is it emotion?
Oh yeah. Like I'm the most anal person about, I could never leave my rope can laying anywhere because they knew all my ropes were handpicked from the factory, and I took better care of them than you could a kid, and then my strings, I always had them in a tube where I was real anal about them being straight, if they have a little kink in them, or like if I fly with them, it was almost ruined the deal because it took forever to get that twist out of them for putting them in your can,
But you use the one that feels the best, the
Oh,
rope and the string
I'm
every
gonna
night,
use the very
and then
best.
willing to launch that. And I remember I was the nerd that was like talking to the PRC and saying, what if we got someone who makes good picking strings to give us 10 and have them there, so every single guy every single night throws one. And I got booed out of the meeting, but
Yeah, the first time I did it, I had a pretty good meeting the next morning. You can't frickin' do that. You can't do this. You can't do that. Well, I went around the next night and I frickin' did it again, So, and then 2 more rounds before the week was over. And so, yeah, I was at like $3,000 just at picking string fines because it was dangerous,
Well, the one thing I will say, you mentioned it's easier today to build a brand, and you're talking about the advent of cell phones and social media. On the flip side, cell phones and social media may or may not have,
Yeah.
Rocker couldn't get away with the flying dismount off the 2nd floor at the bar in Pendleton when he was 18, and you couldn't have gotten,
Well, the PBR would be in a different place if they could record stuff that I was a part of on phones.
Yes.
a few
and
people
saw.
might be in jail.
And that's all good, but still, the grassroots ability for people to get to know you without someone trying to package you is there. And now in social media, people crave the real. They don't want the BS.
Yeah,
They want.
I got to chime in on that one because, I have just as many haters as I do followers, and so now I just do tons of private lessons. I've got probably 15 girls a week right now. And, a lot of girls bring their mom, their grandma, and they're after 2 days with them or something, you're like, I might have been on the fence about you, but now, like, what I've done to their granddaughter or whatever,
It's your heart.
It's your heart that brings it out, but they don't never get to see you. They just get to see the picture everybody freaking paints of you. And then that's what they go with,
Well, okay. The other day I was watching the Canadian finals, and the young lady who really took it to him. Then I find out, and I see these videos. She was FaceTiming you in the breakaway, right? What's her name?
Macy Auclair.
Macy Auclair, and she was FaceTiming you while she was roping the dummy between runs, right?
Yeah, she actually came down to college in Texas, and they kind of gave her the runaround. Didn't get to rope as much as she thought and all that. So time had rocked on, and she was sour kind of about Texas, like, man, this is not really where I want to be. And I didn't know her parents at all. Her dad had rode bulls and been to the PBR back in the early stages, but her mom just reached out and she said, listen, I don't know where she's at. Like, I want you to just get my daughter back. So I was like, well, what do you mean get your daughter back? She's like, our mental game. and she's really one of the best ropers in Canada, but she's nowhere. She's lost like right now because she's so devastated over coming down there 18 years old, 17 years old, and things didn't go right. So she just, like I say, trust the process because she trusted it from day one. Well, we didn't even know after I got her kind of dialed in, her dad was a bull rider, and she never asked him where he'd learned the stuff to teach her. And he's actually the only one that's ever taught her anything, but he had actually bought my DVD, watched it 1,000 times, he said, and used what he could, learn and off of my DVD, and that's how he taught her. So when she come to rope the first time, I was kind of blown away. I was like, God, she does a lot of things that I do. And so we didn't even know that story until after about 4 or 5 months later that they had come out and said that's how he had taught her to rope. And so it turned in a lot easier because things were close, they just weren't dialed in. And, everybody's like, hey, Mom gets out rattling, my daughter's a mental case, she can't do this, she can't do that. And I was like, well, honey, you need to go sit in the truck because 90% of her freaking problem is you have a problem,
But
so
that's the beauty of you, for me, forever, is that you say, you shoot straight. And sometimes that's not easy to hear.
It's not easy to hear, but now the girls that were kind of timid after day 2, day 3, or their second time to come back, I mean, I get a bond with them, because they're on the muscle the first day. They're timid, they don't really know what I'm going to say or how I'm going to treat them, and then we come like, oh, this guy actually cares, And when they do something good, I'm loud. I'm always praising them. But then once they start getting it, and they do it 2 or 3 times in a row, like I'm wanting them to do it, like I won't even say anything, and I video a lot of it myself as I'm coaching, and then I'll just sit there for like 5 or 6 seconds, and they're coiling their rope up, and they're waiting for me to holler something, and then they just know, and then you can just see it all over them, like they're smiling on the inside and out. And consistency in a girl, that fixes their mental game.
And this is all happening in Hyco, Texas, neighboring Stephenville, by the way. But I think people who own, like you owned the Thomas and Mack, and the segue into civilian life after being center stage and all the spotlight is on you is not always easy for people. How was that for you?
It's not. And so, like he was talking about the social media side of things, I feel like today that we put guys up here that, and they earned their way to the top coming in or whatever. And it's this place. I mean, until I ran this last calf in this arena, it literally would feel, I've never had a feeling like that. I mean, like it had to be like one of them jet, like Tough Flew and Cheyenne, one of them fighter jets. I mean, that's the feeling I've felt every time I rode into that box. So they don't realize the actual pressure, I don't think, until you actually have to sit there and nod your head for an animal and have to perform and have to take in all the pressure and all that stuff you have to do all day long.
Well, it gets worse when you're successful, too.
Yes, and they're expecting greatness every time you ride in.
Yeah, you set your own bar, and that's heavy on your shoulders. But I like that, but I know Tommy Joe Lucia is not the same human that he was in the PBR days. I was a real asshole. I pretty much, well, you can still call me one.
Karen.
But I'm just saying, Father Time and God and things, it does change, right? There were times in my career, and I'm just wondering for you, where I can look back and said, you probably could have handled that. You could have been a little softer. That person might have succeeded if you didn't just punch them right in the mouth. And that's kind of an evolution. Do you think Cody Ole has come through somewhat of an evolution from young Cody to now?
I do, and and even like my own daughter, I get done with a run, and I'm just like, even when I do good or whatever, she's like, "Why are you mad, Dad?" I'm like, "Honey, I never breathe. By the time I take my last breath, I never breathe again until I throw my hands up." So like, it's all the adrenaline releases and all that, but they always just thought I was just some crazy person, like I was just there, like I would give up a gold buckle for everybody at the rodeo just to like feel like that one run was worth every penny of what we paid for that ticket, so they don't know either side of me, but they would just always think just the opposite about that. But for everybody else, I don't know how they, I don't know how they went about things, but that's the way I went about it. And I was just full of energy and everybody. So they paint a picture of you that you're a jerk,
But
you're
culture,
this, you're
culture
cocky
today, culture today, though, which I call it kind of the Karen cowboy culture, and that is, well, it's okay to lose. You know what? You are great if you're in the top 15. That's fine. You are great if you're in top. But if we lose that drive to kick someone's butt every time, then our legendary champions will go away.
Well, and on the full spectrum of emotions, we shouldn't let it get away without speaking of your best girl, the little sorrow best girl, Pearl, Sid Miller's Pearl, and what she meant to your career.
It's the greatest, it's hard to talk about because I felt like I let her down because I didn't get a world championship, but the world knows I won a world championship on her. I was just screwed out of it, so.
Are you talking about the calf that walked?
Yeah, that no rerun, no reride,
What year was that?
2013.
2013, and there was a lot of controversy because for people who don't remember, your calf walked.
Yeah, literally, he trotted.
And there was controversy, right? Some people were like, was this calf sick, drugged? What happened?
Yeah, there was a lot of controversy, and we had all the tests done on him and everything. But I would never get to see the test, so maybe you tested, maybe you didn't. I know they did pull the blood. I did see that, but how far it went with that. But I didn't know what to do at the time. Was the best thing just to pull up, and then I could have shut that whole damn rodeo down if you want to know the truth about it today. I mean, I could have been that guy that said, screw it, I'll just be done. But this rodeo will be done too. So
we have to go back, as painful or it may still be really hard for you to talk about, but round 9 in 2001, when you left here on crutches, you went to center stage to get 2 gold buckles for the all-around and the calf rope in 01 on crutches, because in round 9, 2 loops, you step off and you obliterate your right knee, right knee, and you had to cut your rope. I mean, it was the most dramatic. I was sitting right above, and I was bawling. And how? I mean, what do you remember about that run?
Just had to talk about this the other day, but it's that run, I just knew, Fred. It was to the point I knew I had it won really at like the 7th round because of my performance early in the week. So I'm not the guy that's going to go lay up. I mean, if the round's tough, I'm still going to go at it. I don't know how, like Riley's really good at it now, just going and knock one down. I'm still not that guy, because your best throw is your money throw here, okay? So Fred was winning the round that night, and he was a few ropers ahead of me, and, I was at the point where I didn't feel like I could even stumble or do anything wrong at that time, and so I missed that first loop on him, and I was winning the average, and like I said, it was pretty much over anyway, just catch those 2 calves, but Trevor and I, we flew and flew and flew. That was I think that was my 2nd national finals rodeo in the steer rope. And so when it happened, nothing really had gone through my mind then. When I went to get up, I was like, this baby don't work. It doesn't even attempt to work. And I tried to put a little pressure on it a couple times, and it just gave completely away. So I don't even know what I was thinking. I should have just laid on the calf and cut my rope, and then I wouldn't have had to drag behind him. I'd had to get him back up, but at least I'd have had a hold of him. And from the point that when I cut that rope 4 inches behind where his legs were at, which, so many things are going through your mind, and, am I done forever, but from that point on, once I started dragging behind him, and it looked like he was going to get away at some point. I only had that much rope for 2 hands to be on. And once I grabbed that leg, I don't know if it was just because we were in Vegas, but literally like the whole Thomas and Mack in front of me was just like a white light that you would see at downtown, and it said on there, "You lost, you lost, you lost." And I was like, the frick, I did lose. And that was the only thing I feel that got me through that run, and lost and quit are two words that I never say. So for that just to be like boom, boom, like I didn't even feel like I could see the calf, literally, like it was just like, that's all I could see. And, I was just gone long enough, after hurting that leg. So everything was already starting to kind of kick in. And then, when I threw my hands up, it was just overwhelming. It was the worst pain I ever had in my life. Like I couldn't even let them pick me up. It just felt like it had, like ice picks were just going through it, And so I was wanting to just get up and get out of there with the help, And there was no way. I mean, it hurt that much. It didn't hurt that much during the run. I didn't have any use of it. But then as soon as I threw my hands up, it was like it was the worst feeling. It ain't the worst feeling now that I've been through, but it was the second.
And so let's just go ahead and talk about the worst that you've ever been through. 2020, you're here, this pinnacle in your career. Oh, the headliner of the class of 2020 in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame. And you're on your deathbed in the hospital trying not to die.
Yeah, I mean, it's, Trent Walls was coming over there and, helping me, and he was blown away. He's like, dude can't even move. Like, he's like, let's go.
Tell people who don't know what was the matter that you were in the hospital, by the way, for how long?
3 months.
3 months. With what?
So I was in the point in my career, I was like, depression was kind of set in. I mean, the hardest thing on me, even today, is going to watch the rodeo, So I kind of had give up, I didn't no purpose, and so I got a little heavy. And I was just in my yard jacking around with some buddies and barely stepped in like a little hole. And it kind of gave me that hyperextend feeling, when I stepped in it. And then about 3 hours later, that thing is the size of a basketball. And so I didn't have no clue.
What was the size of a basketball?
My right knee popped my meniscus, and I didn't know I popped it, and then it swole up. I mean, it was
same knee that you blew out.
Yeah, same knee I blew out. So go to a buddy's house. We hang out for a little while. I go home. I call the local orthopedic guy in Stephenville, and I said, "Hey man, this is what happened. This thing is huge." He said, "Man, just come in. We'll drain it." So I go in, and so he has them big 30 gauge needles, and I swear 8 or 10 of them he pulls off of that knee. And it was clean, it was clear, everything's good. I went home. 2 days, it didn't swell back up, and I had some relief. The pain was so bad because of all the swelling, but he sucked it out of there. Then boom, it pops right back up. He says, "Come in, man. Everything we pulled out of there was clean. There was no infection." He drains it again, and if Blake's not living with me, I die at my house. Literally. I don't even. I can just remember not looking at the walls and not even being able to get up. And then I tried to get up, and I fell on the floor between the wall and the bed, and then I was just there. And he's on the other end of the house in his room, and I know I'm hollering, and Honey comes in there. He calls my best friend, and they call 911. So I go to Stephenville for 3 days, and there's 6 doctors hovering over me every day, and they can't figure out why it's traveling. It's going from my knee and it's working its way up, and they can't figure it out, and they can't stop it. And so
an infection.
Yeah, it's serious shit now. So the girl that worked in the hospital, my ex-wife was working there too at the time and was making a lot of decisions for me. But the girl that worked in there is my neighbor now, and I was already living by them, and they're friends of mine. So she said, "Listen, Cody, I prayed about it. I don't give a damn if I ever work in the hospital again. If I lose my job for life, so be it. You're leaving here tonight at 9 o'clock, because if you stay tonight, you're dead tomorrow." That's how serious this shit is. And so 9 o'clock, they loaded me up, and I just went. They don't even do surgery or anything. They'll cut you open, and they drained me 5 or 6 different times. They opened up that. It's almost I would say almost like a foot scar down the side of my hip and down. But they cut that same scar open every time they'd done something, and just literally felt like I didn't feel it, but raking it out with a shovel. So anyway, I get there. And I just remember, I don't remember anything. I have nurses that, they have to come in there and look like they're going to work for NASA, and then I could hear them come in, I could hear them get ready, and I still not putting 2 and 2 together, but there was about 2-week time in there, and I can hear them, and they're really preparing Sailor that, I'm not going to make it, so I don't know what. It's just something in me that, I could remember laying there and then them just sticking me all over, and putting all these ports in me just to keep me fully medicated and pain. I had to have so much pain medicine that's what they were worried about, me being addicted and doing all that stuff. But literally that was from the day I went in there, I don't care what a person's done in life. I would never wish what I went through on any person in the entire world, because from the day I went in till the day then they shipped me to a nursing home for the last month. So just to take care of me and tend to me, I couldn't do anything myself. And so, oh man, I had the same pain until they had to wait till all the infection was completely gone to even replace my hip, because the infection had already ate all my hip. Because that was the next ailing thing. So it didn't matter. I couldn't, if they moved this leg and slid it up or tried to sit me up, it literally took 1 hour for me to work my heel with my sock and get it back straight, or it would just go in convulsions and it was just like a freaking buck in the bed. And then they put me in my own wing eventually, because I would just scream like it. They couldn't even have anybody on the same end of the floor.
You couldn't go to your own Hall of Fame induction. That's a low.
You, Kendra, said in. That's quite an honor.
I mean, that's not even an honor, man. That's just like, the greatest human in the world, like, for my, that's, at that point in my life, it was my biggest accomplishment, they forget the gold buckles and all that stuff. I mean, it eventually goes away. Trevor and I had a talk the other day, we need to hurry up and do some footage and do some stuff, because, much as I won here in a couple years, they ain't gonna remember me either, So at that point, I was needing something. I was needing something to pick me up. Rodeo's been my whole life. I've never done anything different. I never wanted to do anything different. And to officially be inducted in the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame, I mean, that was big for me at that time in my life, because I was so depressed and I couldn't let go of rodeo. That's the whole problem, is they don't realize it. Like, that shit's not easy to let go of, man. To go from here to nothing, and it seemed like that's what happened in my career. We all made some horrible choices and swapped, associations. That was something we believed in, but it cut me 3 years of the real money. When the money got real, I wasn't a part of that, and then enough time rocked around that I was really pretty much done,
Yeah. Well, and that's a conversation that we've had reoccurring on this podcast, and that is we have to be careful what our identity is, right? What it is that props us up, and we should often look back and make sure that the things that we take for granted that really do prop us up, like God and our family and our friends, but it's hard when my dad was, Hall of Fame. It took 3 months before he died is when he finally gave up on, wished I was still in the arena, right?
Right.
And that was the last 3 months was the only conversations we had, and I was raised like normal conversations, right? But it's a real thing, and depression's a real thing, and stardom is a real thing, and the other thing is sometimes people look over and they're like, oh, so-and-so is going through. Well, it takes a man to step forward and say, you need some help.
Yep.
Well, and what I think is so extraordinary, like you got the message, and you look like you could go be 6'5" again today, because you're fit, you're clean, you're living a healthy life, right?
Yes.
And you're walking.
Walking.
Time.
I just remember sitting there in the wheelchair, and I would just ask for separate things, like, God, just let me walk again. I can't do this. I can't be in this wheelchair. I can't do that. Just I'll do anything. So like now, my son, like, I don't feel like doing that. I don't feel like unloading this load of hay. I don't feel like doing this. A normal dad would want to whoop your ass or get pissed off, and it gets me a little irritated for a second. And I said, you know what, buddy, if you want to go to town, get you something to drink, go get you something. I'll unload every freaking bale of this. I really will, and I do. And I promised God, man, if you just get me out of this, I'll do the work. So I've been doing the work. So
you learned the lesson. A lot of people keep getting hit and hit and hit, and they don't learn the lesson. And then, life changes when you internalize.
Yeah, and
live
it's just, I'm done saying it's natural. But drugs, alcohol, that's the first thing that derails everyone after that point. I was just blessed to never have done drugs in my entire life. And I never thought about it even at those days, but I drank a lot, and it just triggers everything. It makes everything worse. It makes the depression double. You think you're drowning it out and you're putting gas on it, and so when you learn all that, and my daughter coming to me, and said, Dad, I almost lost you for the rest of my life. And you're going to drink and risk doing that all over again to me after what I went through, watching you lay there and about die in my arms and wake up on your chest. And the day she said, just stop drinking, and everybody's like, well, how did you quit like that? When the ing come out of drinking, that was it, done.
But what's super cool is that you, again, with being willing to shoot straight, it's really great for Shad Mayfield and Riley Webb and everybody else, all of our kids, for you to step up and say, I drank too much and it about wrecked me.
Yeah, it was no secret, that was my weak spot, I've done some horrible things. I've lost sponsors, and it's just so funny is because now today I've got 3 of those sponsors back. They just wanted the best Cody. They didn't want, the derailment. They didn't want the drama. They didn't want all the things that, become that when you become letting alcohol run your life,
Good for you.
I got a question for you. No spin rodeo, we're zero BS. Would you say in your best time, the locker room of calf ropers were as good or better than the current?
Like I said, I'm vocal, and you can take it how you want. You can do all the things you want to twist about it. There will be never a greater group of guys. You're going to have 2 superstars, 3, and I think another thing that's changed that is the money is so good that guys that know literally inside of their heart that they can't beat those 4 guys on their best day in Vegas. They can beat them in a bigger rodeo when the pin's big or whatever. Yeah. They know that they can't beat those guys on their best day. They rope for 6th every night, right? So I'm watching, and the 10th round rolls around, and they say, well, he's going to have a good Christmas. He's won $100,000. I never seen that. I never seen it coming, but all he's doing is knocking them down, winning 6. Maybe he's a half second off the pace every night, but he wins 3rd or 4th, 5th in average. He wins $100,000. But to me, there will never be. And they think our little group was tough. You could go to the Mo Better roping in Oklahoma. You had to beat 70 guys. I don't mean beat 70 guys. I'm talking about there's 70 freaking guys there that could win the whole damn thing at any time. It wasn't a fret. I won that roping 4 times, but it wasn't in the Calcutta. We brought a lot of money, but everybody there could have brought what we brought to Calcutta. That's what I felt when I got there.
The talent pool.
The talent pool.
I want to get in. I want to get into these events because I want to hear what CO has to say about a lot of them. But I do want to say this is the last time 8-time champ of the world Dean Oliver was out here. Oat and I gave him a ride to the hotel one night after the rodeo, and I had to point blank him. And I said, who's the best you've ever seen? And he didn't pause, and he said, Cody O. That's a pretty tall compliment.
He's my man. That's didn't have Ernie Taylor, I messaged him on his birthday before he died, unexpectedly, and he messaged me the same thing, and I was like, for those 2 guys to say that, the rest of the world don't make 2 shits to me. Their opinion, it doesn't matter, But for those 2 guys, that's all I needed to hear, if you want to go back to the 01, that's the year that ruined my whole life. It's a year that took everything that They think mine and Fred's dynasty was off the charts, and it's still the greatest thing. But they missed the whole picture. Like mine and Trevor's all-around races would have been 10 times of what that was. And nobody even really knows it. You know, like most of the time, guys, we win one. Like Fred wins one. Joe got 3 because, you know, he knows a couple of those Ty got hurt. And it's not a freebie. You have to freaking bear down and win it. But to be 2 dominant guys head to head, it would have been so much more than what Fred and I had just being in one event, because I did every event myself, you know, and I felt like my team roping was really taking off at the time. You know, I only went to like 40 rodeos and ended up in the top 30 that year. I felt like, you know, and I had great partners at the time now, so I felt like if I started in January, I make the finals in the team roping and of course in the steer roping as well.
And the 55 national finals go-around wins is second only to Trevor Brazil.
Sure, and that's, I mean, he's been here in 4 events, you know, I mean, 52 of those are just in one. And so it is for now, you know, records are made to be broke, you know, but that's one, in my event, that's one that's going to be tough, I feel like.
Well, before we put a button on this, or to put a button on this and go into the NFR, interesting fact, 3 generations from now, your family won't know you. 3 generations, they won't know who you are. So our give back is the cultivation of our family, the new breed of ropers, right? That's how, wouldn't you agree that that's how we stay alive, all of us, with all of our peers 3 generations from now, when our family won't even know our name.
I would say that having his daughter Sailor be his assistant coach at the Kid Rock Rodeo is a pretty good start.
Yeah, that was good. All right, well, let's get into the weeds here of the NFR. We've got about 15 minutes to knock it out. Just some highlights I wanted to bring up. Haley Kinsel ties Charmaine and Survey with the most all-time go-round wins by a barrel racer. Fun fact, Charmaine James won rounds on 3 different horses. Survey did it on 5. Kinzel's done it all on Sister.
Can I give you a fun fact? Because that's why we were stepping up on this stage. Corey Petska called me. And his mom, Gail Petska, and that little sorrel horse of hers, Dobie, in 1972, when they won the world, they won 7 go-rounds in 2 seconds here. Pretty cool.
Was the horsepower the same?
Horsepower is the same. We've always had great horses. You know, you just learn faster ways to do everything. Every event's that way. They're just learning. And like with my coaching, I change it weekly because it does change.
Yeah.
You know, and same deal. They learn the leg lift. I mean, what does that do? Like somebody say, well, she was like beat them by 4/10. If you tip the barrel over halfway, you're gaining 2 foot every time you do that, and people don't realize that. You know, it's just like
you're that much closer to the barrel.
You're that much faster.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
And so every event changes. You know, I mean, the stock's better. Everything's set up for them to be better, and I think the horsepower is dead on. I just think the riders and athleticism and the leg lifts and not completely having to go around the barrel.
Evolution.
You know? It's just the evolution of the sport.
Sure.
Thinkers think.
Yeah.
Other thing is peso, because I know you're a horse person.
Let's save that for the calf.
Okay. Well, then I'll.
We need to save extra time for the calf.
Well, it would be null of me not to say the largest roping ever. The finale yesterday paid out $2.8 million, and we 2.8 million, and the top guys got $220,000 a man, but 12th place paid $30,000 a man.
Okay.
That's just cool.
It's super cool, and I don't know how many years ago, in recent history, I remember I get random photos from photographers sometimes, and this picture hits my phone, and it's Guy Allen. And he had just won more money. He's got 18 gold buckles in the steer open, and he had just won more money. Then my phone rings, it's Guy. He's balling, because he's won more money than he ever won being the king of the steer roping of all time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's great.
One day.
It's just cool. All right, bareback riding.
Bareback riding. So Jess Pope was 89.5 to win round 9 on Pete Carr's Resistol's Secrets Out. And she is a two-timer here because Bradley Miller won round 4 on her. Do you watch the bareback riding?
I haven't the last few nights, but yes,
Okay.
I watch all the events, and I got great friends, and in every one of them, so I got some interest in it.
Jess Pope's a veteran, and what I was wondering about old Jess, right? Bareback riding's the toughest on the body, right? And he's riding against kids that don't have the joint histories, right? Just the reality is, right? And to see Jess do that, that means a lot to some of us old timers. They're like, "That a boy."
Yeah, we had a sponsor deal about a month ago in Fort Worth, and I just love it because they're breaking down bareback riding right in front of me, and then I ask them about guys winning the world and this and that. He said, "Listen, this is not a little boy sport in 2 weeks. Like we're not going to have as many hoppers in there. This is grown man bareback riding this week, or these 2 weeks when we come out here this year finally for once."
For sure. And Jess, has he won the average, I think, 3 times maybe? And he's kind of known for that. So for him to win a round is pretty, By the way, you won the average here 3 times?
3 times.
Not, you had it all. Anyway, let's go to the first guy out last night, Wag.
Well, just here's the way the bareback riding is going to go down. It's really, I don't think Rocker, but I do think it's worth saying. Dean, Keenan, Bradley, and Rocker, watch your rides, because this whole deal will shake out in those 4 horses. That's just the truth. It's so close. So if you're wondering, you're sitting down and wondering, I don't think Rocker, because of the average, I just don't think
the
he's
little
make.
After round 9, what if Bradley Miller would have been the world champ,
He's still got the best shot.
But Keenan,
Sam
Houston. It's wide open.
All right, sorry.
Okay, we're burning daylight.
The guy that's got the best shot today is the one that can handle that 18,000 people the best and get the job done.
Exactly.
And handle the pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, so Wag went first last night and put the smack down on one. What is he, 3-5?
Finally, he's on my pro fantasy team.
He pulled out. Usually he saves his purple shirt for round 10 just to piss Ode off, because Ode always got his shirt torn off when he wore purple. But he pulled it out for round 9, and by golly, it worked again. He's riding Sam Dixon's Baby, and Kyle Irwin's over there. Do you watch the?
I watch steer wrestling too. Yeah. My favorite has been Will Loomis, and just having him have a great week this week after last year's NFR, and it's just amazing. But there's a lot of great guys in there. Like, you can't not root for all those guys because how they root for each other. So
isn't it great?
It's unreal.
Yeah.
It's
Loomis has got he's got a real. Where he's at in the average, right? He's
got the best shot.
He's got the best shot. Yeah.
And by the way, several times in recent history, I feel like we got all the way down to the end, and he'd been, in the conversation all week, and then some little thing happened.
That 10th round.
Well, Casey says I have to keep telling Will, repeat.
Oh, yeah.
You got to keep this. This has got to be boom,
Right.
boom, 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 boom. Don't start getting distracted by the noise.
It's also interesting, like the last 2 years, Dalton Massey's come in here in the lead and has not had that much fun here. And Will, having had things kind of crumble toward the end a few times, he said at the start of the week that he talked to his wife, and they're like, we're just going to have fun because we're not going to take this too damn seriously.
Yeah,
anymore.
like I've been to 2 concerts this week, and they've been at both of them, like not overthinking it, not feel like you got to be in bed at 9:30, just enjoying the moment, enjoying your time, but taking that butt kicking he took here last year and took it serious, and now he's just putting it to work,
So last night was okay. So Coleman Proctor and Logan Medlin won the round, and that was a big one because Mr. Coleman took a little lead here in the all around, and if it had ended last night and you'd paid off the average, we'd have one of those tough split decision deals. Coleman would have be the heading world title, and Wesley Thorpe the heeling world title. And I'll never forget times like I feel like it was 2011 or 12, being down there by the TV and stuff, and here walks up Clay Cooper, and I had to tell him, like, Chad won it. he barely didn't win it. Those are tough when you take people off the same team and split them. Not that that's going to happen, but it might.
It could.
Could.
But isn't it cool? Like Coleman, he's just like he handles this, right? He just
Speaking of
watching
having a
him,
good time.
and I should have picked him on my fantasy team, but just to watch, like it makes you happy to watch him win, right?
Oh,
You
yeah.
you can just feel him, if that makes sense.
Very passionate.
Very passionate, and I hope he's got the best shot at the all-around. He does.
Well, he won the all-around at Pendleton and Cheyenne this year. You know, that's pretty cool. And, like, sometimes, again, my phone will ping, and it's Coleman, and he's sending me this picture. He's doctoring one out in a wheat pasture. Like, he's a cowboy. It's pretty fun. But
He's a family guy, too, right? He's got his priorities
He's
figured out.
He's got it all in the right order.
Yeah.
Yes, and they couldn't leave Cheyenne to drive all night until he took those girls to the carnival and got them some cotton candy.
Exactly.
Good for him. Okay, Lefty, 88.5 on Tickled Pink, Championship Pro Rodeo. So I'm not 100%. I think they may have said Ryder won around on that horse earlier, but this is Lefty's. It was his first victory lap of the week. Of note for me is I've always been close to this family that's, includes Dakota Eldridge and Clayton Sellers now and Clayton Bigelow and all these people. The man who taught Lefty to ride broncs, John Holman, they called him Witch, his grandpa, he died this year, and it was a freak deal, like a four-wheeler out, gathering something.
Cattle.
But John Holman, here like last year, seeing him, no one was more proud of Lefty than Grandpa Witch. And Grandpa Witch was a great character. He would be at all our high school rodeos, and he'd show up with mason jars full of moonshine and be passing them out to us rodeo moms, And my personal favorite, I think, was this like cinnamon or whatever, but clove something. Anyway, but he used to travel with Chris freaking Ledoux, Witch was from KC, Wyoming, and traveled with Chris in the heyday, and the stories they could tell. That the time that I got to go to Chris's house and I saw the rig that they used to drive, Rodeo Rose they called her, and she's still there at the ranch in a shop, and like when they'd get in a wreck, they would take a Sharpie and write on the wreck, like, this happened in Tijuana on this date. I mean, those were some great rodeo stories. Let's talk calf roping.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Peso, Logan Bird's little buckskin horse, who's been here plenty of times before, went 1, 2, 3 last night, right? Joel Harris, Ty Harris, Tough split third, Tough Cooper just made the change onto Peso last night. What is it about? There are just some horses that this is their deal.
To me, he's not a great horse. You can just count on him every freaking time. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he's that horse that I felt like maybe I could win. Be dominant on, because the way he stops, he's a little long in his stop sometime. Take the snap. But now with the way the cattle are, you don't need much horse. But for him to be on the end of the rope every single time and scores really good, that's the two number one things, and that's what he does best.
I feel like, wasn't there a little buckskin horse years ago, Jaguar?
Yep.
That Trevor rode and others.
Tough hopped on him when he was winning the world.
He was kind of the same way. They never would have said this is the best horse out there for the year, but in this building,
consistent. Well, and I'm not the timed event guy in this group, but Marty Yates' horse looks to me like he left some money on the table for Marty, because, and I'm not the timing here, but when he shuts down, he shuts down.
Yeah, and it's not that as much as in the corner in the box. Is he gonna elevate a little bit, or do I need to feel like I need to leave early because he's gonna, and then he don't, and I break out? That thought in my mind was the worst, and that's where
I see.
Peso is so good. He's going to be level. He's not going to elevate at all. And I'm not talking about rearing up. I'm just talking about that little kind of loft that'll get you outrun here.
Because you've got to mix that then into the equation of hitting the barrier, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Now Riley, he's got the hammer in his hand. Is that right?
Pretty much.
Riley just needs to tie this one down.
He's been on point.
That's
Rudy.
because he was on point when he got here, and that's what I felt like my best years. I put kind of a statement on the year, but boom, boom, boom. I put a statement on the first 5 rounds, and then everybody else is having to make the mistakes because they're having to press when the rounds get tougher. Everything gets tougher as it goes, right? So I just get them done early, and that's what he did this year.
He's in a special zone.
If he finishes tonight after coming in here where he came in here, I would be willing to bet he could win 10 in a row.
Wow.
I firmly believe that. I mean,
10 what in a row?
World championships.
Holy moly.
Well,
I just
'cause it was
remember before, with a month or so before we came, I remember we were, I don't know what episode number it was, but you were like, gosh, I'm kind of surprised, like Riley's not doing that well. And I was like, he's 4th in the world. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right? But
Well,
he
I know,
came
but
within shooting distance.
There was this emotion. So it's been the Shad story, right? I mean, you know what I mean? There's a lot of talk, and Riley's always been consistent. But to be that young and to emotionally, I think this is what you're saying, to emotionally play the game good and handle all of this is setting him up.
He hated last year's NFR. He hated it because he couldn't get in the mix. The same thing when I won we were the exact same. His first world championship and my first championship. I could relate to all of it. Like he couldn't put his foot on the gas and afford to stumble. And then this year he gets to rope like he wants to rope, the way he grew up roping. And now look where he's at.
But also, don't think it doesn't piss him off that nobody was talking about him coming here. There's a little charge that will give you.
And even, I had to make picks. I mean, I watched every night just like everybody else did. My pick was Shad. I mean, that horse was that good all year long. Coming in here extremely high and all around in the calf rope. And I couldn't bet against him. I couldn't. Seriously said, he is a man playing with boys all summer long. He was a man playing with boys, competing against boys. That's all he did.
Well, he can make mistakes and win the round.
He's because he's so strong, so dominant. Yes.
The thing about it, though, let's go back to Salt Lake City. You and I were both there. Riley Webb, they say what does not kill you makes you stronger.
That's right.
What it was, he's 16 years old. He missed a calf for $1 million. Don't think that made him stronger and tougher.
He stood right up at the end. He stood right up.
He was a man.
He was a man.
He's a man. He's an unreal person, unreal kid. And now with this, if he captures this world championship the way he had to get it, it's see you later.
The flip side, though, Shad, I mean, there's got to be a lot of emotions. We got to keep moving because we got a couple minutes. But talk about air seeping out.
Well,
emotionally.
if he made the decision not to get the hip surgeries this year because he had his, 2 gold buckles in his sights, and I feel like, if he leaves here without either one of them, that's
what I'm saying.
sure going to be very hard.
That'll let the air right out of you.
It's hard. All right, we got a minute each. Let's do barrel racing.
Okay, barrel racing. So Haley Kinsel, what was this, her 4th? Her and Sis. By the way, they went second to last. We were all very sorry that from the night before, Donna Kay is out for rounds 9 and 10. That was very scary, but I mean, she'll be okay. Valor's fine. That's wonderful news. Tyler Bingham, 88.5 on Hell Yeah Roscoe. Corey and Lang's bull to win the bull riding in round 9. They did. I did hear that they bought that bull from Roscoe Jarbo.
Yeah.
That's where he got his name. So,
but hey, your boy, he seals the deal last night in the bull riding, right?
Josh,
yeah,
that's my boy too.
Yeah, he seals the deal, and good for him. Good for him. And they said something about it's a ranked pin out tonight, but you watch, he'll nod his head.
Oh yeah, he'll nod his head and he'll give it all he's got.
You betcha he will.
He always will. And I said it yesterday, and I feel it very strongly. That gold buckle's for the whole Frost family, and Big Brother Joe deserved one.
Yes.
And this is for him too.
All right, before we get off on what you got to do, I got off because I got emotional, but what she done for me in my Hall of Fame induction and writing all the things that most reporters just say the shit. I mean, you can tell it's meaningful, and I'm laying there on my deathbed, and she flies and does all this stuff for me. Like, it's one of the most incredible things I'll ever cherish the most is her friendship and loyalty to me, and the kind things she says, and me getting to keep that for my kids to read and for the rest of my life. So thank you, Kendra.
That's what Rodeo Family does. Well, it's been a cool episode. Mr. Old, thanks for joining us. Thank you all for joining us for 10 days. We'll be back in a week or so. I don't know. We all got to get home. We'll do a wrap-up of the NFR. Thank you for being a No Spinner. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to the convention center, the staff and crew. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful holiday season. And remember, family.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everybody.
Christmas.